My name is Diego, and I serve the university as the head of the Cloud Agile Systems Management team. We do a few things for the university, but the primary things that we work on is the support of Google Apps, and also we support ACE, the Academic Computing Environment System. So for the next 45 minutes or so, I'd like to talk about Fordham IT and social media. We'll show you, we have a Twitter account. We'll also talk about core applications and non-core applications, and that basically is going to 5 to 10 minute conversation about security and everyone's concerned with what's happening to my data on the cloud, right? Then I'll talk about communication and collaboration. That's basically what Google Apps is, right? Then I'll talk a little bit about digital transformation and how we hear how technology today is changing the way we do things everywhere. In the humanities, how do we do business? The business world, how do you get a taxi to go somewhere? Dating. So we'll talk about digital transformation, and then finally I'll talk about using Google Apps to change the way we teach, right? To how do we add value to the way we teach our classes at Fordham University. So Fordham IT, you can follow us at Fordham IT, and we'll tell you everything is working perfectly all the time. We have a news blog. You should open it up, right? Our director of communications, with the collaboration from some of the IT members, we post things on IT News, and it's a good place to keep track of what we are doing. And my group, we usually have sessions during the Learn IT program. It's called Gaps at Fordham, and we talk in detail about Gaps, Google Apps stuff, Google Drive, Google Mail, Google Calendar, so that if you're interested and want a little deep dive into any particular application, we do that at different stages. It could be very general and very specific. So we try to have those every 2 or 3 months. All right. So let's talk about. Raise your hand if you thought, what's happening to my data when I put it in Google Drive? Is it being used by Google? Right? Are they mining the data? Are they looking at what I'm writing about my intellectual property? That's my course. I don't want anyone to take it and use it, right? So the university, before we started using Google applications, we had a contract, we developed a contract with Google, and anything that is under the core applications is binded by that agreement. So that Google Calendar, Google Classroom, Contacts, Drive, Gmail, Groups, mobile sites, and Google Hangouts is data that is our data. So no one is going to see it other than who you give it access to. Yourself, or you share documents with someone else. That data is not mined by Google, by Alphabet, who owns Google. Non-core applications. So we have, you've seen them all. YouTube, Picasso is now called Photos, Google+, Blogger, and there's a number of them. They come up with new application every day. Those applications are not under the Google contract. Those applications are covered by an agreement between the individual and Google. So that if you post anything in YouTube, you post anything in Blogger, you post anything in Google+, that is not covered by the agreement the university has with Google. It's an agreement between you, the individual, and the corporation. So what that means is that if you use YouTube or Blogger, that data will be mined. That's what that means. So there's a difference. So if you're using Google Drive and if you're using Google Mail, that's our data. It doesn't matter where it is, on the cloud or on premises, it's our data. And we protect it yourself. You can share with a lot of people, you can share with no one. Any questions about that? All right.
There's a question.
Sorry.
I'm curious, if you build a website using Google, is that
the thing is with sites, and I'll try to show you something. See if I can come up with an example. So Google Sites is part of Core.
Okay.
So Core is covered. But when you use a Google site, you have the ability to bring everything together. So when you create a Google site, let's say you have a Google document, right? And then you also have a Google Sheet. And then at the same time, you create a Google group, right? When you create a Google site, you could bring those three things together and show them to the public. If, in addition, you have created a Google video with YouTube, and you add this video to your site, then 3/4 of your application or your site is covered by the core
Okay, I
right?
see that, yes.
Yeah, so-
Thank you, that clears it up for me, actually. I see that.
Yeah, so that's the difference. All right, so while listening to the lecture this morning by Dr. Bowen, the two items on top were my presentation, and everything underneath I've added. So what is Google Apps? What does it help us do? It helps us communicate, and it helps us collaborate, right? It's very simple. And the way technology is nowadays is that technology should be integrated with us. You know, is that as we're doing whatever it is that we do, if you're a doctor, if you're a professor, if you are a painter, technology should help us do what we're doing. And it shouldn't be a task. You shouldn't have to learn how to use it to then teach or learn to paint, but you use it as second nature. It's there for you to use and do whatever you're doing. So Google is very simple in that sense. And if we were using other technology, it would probably be just as good. But that's what we have at the university. We use Google applications. So it can help you communicate. Well, that's not good. Hello? So it helps you communicate, and it also helps you cooperate and collaborate with other people. Technology should add value. So as we were saying before, digital technology or technology at the beginning of times, it was helping us be more efficient, right? You, instead of now writing something in a typewriter, now you could do it in a Microsoft Word, make changes on the fly. You don't have to write the entire document. You could do it. So it will make you more efficient on what you were doing. Today, what makes the difference is that technology is adding value to what you're doing. If technology is not adding value, is not making it better for the person who's receiving whatever you're doing, the service or product you're creating, then it's not transforming or innovating the way you're doing things, right? So technology in that sense is, what can we use, or how can we use Google Apps, Google applications, so that our class, our project, has something different from everybody else. Like Dr. Bowen said this morning, there is a physics course at Columbia or NYU. But why would people come to Fordham University? Why is our course any different? What makes it innovative? Why is our course transforming the way people learn or people teach? So I took some notes down during the conference, and I'll try to, as I go forward, to apply these bullet items to how you could do this with Google applications. So increase class time. And technology is not separate from us, it's integrated with us, and I mentioned something about that. Make connections and build a community. And we talk about Google Groups and how we could do that with Google Groups. Concrete and personal learning. So everything is changing, and people are collecting information as we use our mobile devices, right? So that it looks like technology is everywhere, but at the same time, we are getting served in a personal manner, right? I could turn my iPhone, and if I selected the news that I want to see, it will tell me the temperature of where I am at that moment, the news related to the area that I'm located, or the news that I want to listen to. So in that sense, technology could be used we could have 5 different courses with, let's say, 25 people per course. So I'm not a mathematician, but 20 times 5 is a number, big number. But that number of people that we have as a class, but we could serve them individually in an efficient manner. So that's how technology could help us, right? Personalize the way we teach. And finally, this is retrieving and self-testing. It's something else that Dr. Bowen mentioned, that you could have small tests during the course to get involvement from the students. We could use Google Forms for that. And you could make an exam in 5 minutes, reach 100 people in 5 different courses, and collect the information and be able to make an assessment of the course. So I'll try to integrate this that we hear this morning to the rest of the presentation. And if you guys have any questions or want me to talk about anything else, just let me know. All right. So how do we enhance and support the traditional classroom? And it's very simple. We have Google and we have Google Groups. Has anyone used Google Groups? Right? If you haven't used Google Groups, you have to agree to the terms of service. And I should have had this here, but if you go to Fordham.edu, because this is, a lot of people have complained that they don't know what this is. But if you go to Fordham IT, Gmail and Google Apps, in the terms of service agreement, there's 2. By default, when an application is created at the university, you do not see Google Groups or sites. You have to go into this page, agree to the terms of service for core applications, and Google Groups and sites will appear here. Sites and groups. And if you want to get everything else, YouTube and Picasso, you have to agree to the Google Consumer Apps Terms of Service, just by clicking on this link and agreeing to the Terms of Service. So that's how you'll see it. So I took a couple of courses at the university, and one of the things that the instructor had a problem with, the professor, was communicating with the class. Usually the list of students that are in the class will not be completed by the second week. And the first emails you send during the first 2 weeks, you're missing someone, you're sending someone who's not in your class, there is confusion. But if you go into Google Groups and create your own group, and you have the ability to do that, and include the members of your class, now you have a group of only one email address with everyone who belongs to your class that you could communicate. Now, Google has increased the power of Google Groups, and I'll show you. I'll click here in. So that a Google group could become a community. Remember how you have listservs in the old days, or communities where, if you're interested in boats, you will go and find it, and then people will talk about boats, the color they like, the size of the boat they like, and then you could participate in that online community. So for your class, and one of the things that Dr. Bowen talked about earlier today was creating that community, right? So this is a group that I created. We're working on a project of deploying WebEx to the university to be used for the faculty to teach. So I created a group, and I added a little bit to the top to describe it, add a little graph that took a whole of 2 seconds to do that. But then, in here, anytime I post something to this group, it will be delivered in an email to the users, right? So they'll receive it in the email. They have the option to say, I'm going to receive that email every time it's sent, or send me only a summary every 5 emails, or every 20. Send me 1 email with everything that has been sent during the day to the group, right? Why is this powerful? Because if I belong to the WebEx community, right, and I'm in my inbox, now let me find that email that I just sent me 2 weeks ago. Who sent it to me? Where is it? Did I delete the email? I could click on my group, and I could just search the group for that email. It will all be here. So you could do many different things. You're an instructor. You could say, in today's class we talked about business management. Can you give me feedback on business management? The user, the student, could come here, open that up, and post a reply, and everybody could see it. And if you remember, that applies to Dr. Bowen was saying earlier today, where if someone asks a question in your email, instead of replying privately, put it in a public space so everybody else can see it. We have the tool at the university to do that. That's something they decide to do.
Sorry, I hate to be so detailed, but so this one sounds very good. So I get how an instructor would go in and set up a Google group.
Right.
And then would you tell your students, so you must also go to IT, you must also go to terms of service, and you must also do the...
I agree to the terms of service.
Oh, okay, perfect.
For the time being, that's the way we're doing it. We are working to make sure that everyone has groups and sites enabled by default.
Okay.
So if you have a Google group of students, unless you tell them each individually to go in and do that, you can't really communicate to them all.
Right. Right.
So it's just for your benefit at this point. I mean, I have a group, but I haven't done all that. Just for me to see my particular list of students in
Right.
a
You
group.
could add the groups and then tell the students to agree to the terms of service, and then you could communicate.
But if they don't all do it, then you can't communicate with
Right.
all of them.
If
That's the
someone,
problem,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know who's going to do it and who's not.
Right. But you could, as a yes, sir, 1 second, as a administrator of the group, you can see your members. You can see who's there and who's not.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And then if I show you, you could see, as a user, you can change your settings to see when you receive the email. You can see everything here. If the email was delivered, when did they join? Have they joined? If you send the invitation to create a group, they'll receive an invitation say you want to join the group. You can see here if they have joined or not. As he said, 95% of them will participate, 5 will not. But yes, sir.
So is this multi-way? I mean, can any users send an email to the whole group?
Yeah, you could configure it to be
So
many.
a student sends a question, sends an email asking a question. Everybody gets to see the question.
Right. Yeah. And then you could restrict it to the members of your class. You could make it public so that anyone can email the group.
Anybody could try to answer the question.
Right.
Not just the instructor.
Yeah. There are some groups where only members of the group can participate, meaning that they could reply to your questions. And there's many configurations. You could do different types of group. One of the groups that you could do is where it's just basic email going back and forth. Others are questions and answers. And then the students can go in and rate the question as the answer as being a good answer or not. So. So communicating better, using groups. I'm lost here. Have online discussions about a particular topic. We talked about that. Host a question and answer forum where students answer and rate each other's questions. We talked about that. So group is a powerful tool. I don't think we use it enough. As a matter of fact, there's a few tickets that we have from students who have asked to enable it for the entire university, because it's difficult for them to use it when they have to convince the other students to go to the terms of service, agree so they could get it. But the idea behind that is that when people use groups and they use sites, they have to make sure that they're representing the university. So we don't want to use groups for things that are not university approved by the university.
Is this a core app or
It's a core app. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, are your slides going to be available for us? So
Yes,
we-
I could leave this here. If you guys give me your email address, I'll send them to you, and you can see them. And then you can also, if you have any questions, email us at gaps@fordham.edu, and we'll answer your questions the best we can. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I used Google Groups about 6-7 years ago, and it's changed now, I think.
Yeah.
So the original group I set up is probably no longer functioning, but one of the advantages, and I don't know if this is still the case, is I could have people, so I was running a research project that involved people not Fordham, so I was able to include students who had other like commercial accounts
Yeah.
and stuff. And you can still do that?
Yes, you can see this.
So even though if it's hosted by Fordham, it will still accept
Yeah.
non-Fordham?
Yes.
Okay.
So they collaborate with people outside
Yeah.
of the university. Yes. So these are just a reminder. The core applications Google is one of them. Sites is another one. Covered by the agreement between the university and Google, the corporation. Yes.
I have a question about these core applications. Do they work for corporate accounts as well as individual accounts?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
So
do.
for example, I've had difficulty getting Talk or Hangouts on my corporate account. Is that just something I should work with you on, or?
Yeah, we
Okay.
could, Teddy, myself, we could help you.
Okay.
Yeah. You could, if you go into, it could be that it's turned off. I think that's the only thing that Google Talk, it's in the settings, you could turn off Google Chat. But we use it.
That's fine.
We'll help you.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So, all right. So let's talk about collaboration. Can you guys give me examples of how you use technology to collaborate or work with other people in groups?
So we have these digital projects that we work on with 10 students or so. And so we will use Google Drive to put the documents for these different projects. We'll just keep it on the drive so that students who work at different times can come in and access the documents and add to the documents or whatever. I'm interested to know if you can put these Google Drive documents, if you can attach them to the groups. Can you just make a group that all the documents will then live in there?
Yes.
Okay.
You could do it. Have you guys used Google Drive and Google Docs to collaborate with other people? You have? And then how to use it, so we could use it to create this. I know someone who is writing a book using Google Docs because they give access to his collaborators, her collaborators, and they can go in and make comments on the fly. You could access your Google Docs, any application from any mobile device. From this phone, I could make changes into a Google document, a Google Sheet. I could do it from an iPad. So it gives that flexibility. Pretty sure you guys have thought about this. Exams. You have a paper due on Saturday. Instead of having the student, some of us like to use a Blackboard. Some people don't like to use Blackboard. But if you have a folder that you give in the group that you created before access to, and then you tell your students, post your document by midnight today into this folder, it's there. You'll see when it was added. You see who's added it because you have to have authenticated to upload the document so you know who it is. So you can use it in many different ways, and then we can talk about concrete and personal learning. You're targeting the user, the person, the individual. And you're saying he gets an email saying, please post your documentation on this folder. And another of the things that is making technology change the way we do things is systems integration, application integration, where you don't have to go to many different places to read your email and then use your calendar, post your documentation, look at YouTube. When you are using something like Google, this is how we get to Google, right? Our email. But from here, I have all of these things available to me. So you have application integration, right? The student doesn't have to think, where am I going to post this information? What they have to worry about is creating the content, and automatically they just go to my Google Drive, look at what has been shared with me, the folder you've created, and they post a document. And they could do it from anywhere. So I think that's what creates more class time, instead of explaining where to go for the documentation, when is it due, that kind of stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Well, speaking about software integration, so as somebody who's really built up like a significant number of Blackboard courses,
Right.
Is there any way that I would have trouble in kind of using Google Docs and then somehow also being able to export into Blackboard? I mean, I kind of hate to give up all of this infrastructure that I've developed over the many years.
Right. We haven't worked on integrating one of the two. We should,
Okay.
but we haven't looked at that. But as I always say, technology is ones and zeros. You can make it happen, right? But yeah.
Okay.
So you think about Google Blogger and sites and these things that are available to the user, and remember that as a student, you have Google for life. So once you get your Access TAD at Fordham.edu and you graduate, then we hope that every student that leaves the university wants to use Fordham.edu because they're proud of the university. They graduated from here, and hopefully that will get him a job, right? The kid gets emailing from Fordham.edu. And this is one of the things that I tell my kid: build your body of work. Everyone is going to be a political scientist. Everyone is going to be an English major. But when you graduate, if you have a blog site or a site that you created with the work that you've done, all the documents all the papers you wrote, all the projects and research that you've done, so that you can help your students create that body of work. When they have that email, the resume sent out to get a job, they put a link into their blog site, and they have everything that they've done in the 4 years that they were at the university. Yes?
Is that accessed as an app or is that inside Google Drive?
It's an app.
It's one of the features. Okay, great. That's good.
Do I see it? It's there. It might be that I turned it off for my account, but it's there. All right. And then organize. So the next one is Google Calendar. We all use Google Calendar, right? It's the greatest thing. So with the university for 5 years, and the first 2 weeks, to arrange an appointment, it will take, for a 1 hour meeting, it will take about 2 days to arrange the meeting because people were calling back and forth. Are you free at 3? Are you not free at 3? If you use Google Calendar, you can just make sure that you can make your office hours available to the students, and there is a feature called appointments. Thanks, Pat. Appointments. So you could create appointment slots, and then you could give this to your students, and then you could break it down into half an hour, and then they could come in and say, all right, I'm free, I could see you between 11:30 and 12. So you can use your calendar to organize your time and personalize education. You can get in touch with the student. You know, it's if you're receiving an email from your professor saying, I'm available to see you at this time, and then from your email application, you could say, I'm going to see him at 11:30. I think that's a little bit powerful. That gives that personal touch that Dr. Bowen was talking about earlier. And I added Userforms this morning. So, anyone familiar or not familiar with Google Forms?
I'm not familiar.
So it's great. It's fantastic. So one of the things you could do with Google Forms is you could give your an assessment. Now remember that when you create a Google form, one of the options that you have is say you need to be logged into Google Apps. Once you logged into Google Apps, it means that you have to log into the portal. So it is you. It is the student. So you know who it is. And then you could quickly look at how easy this is. So I'm here. And I want to add another question. And then multiple choice, or you can make different checkbox or a paragraph for the answer. Very easy. And then, so here you have. You could either do many things. Poll the students, and am I a good professor? Do I communicate well? Or this is the exam for the midterm that we have in class, or a take-home exam. Once they're finished with the exam and they put in all the information, it goes into a Google Sheet, right? Excel in the Microsoft world. Or you can see all the responses in this format. So it breaks it down for you automatically. Very little that you have to do. I think it's pretty powerful in collecting information back from the students. And you can use it in many different ways.
Excuse me.
Yes?
So, all right, that sounds good, but like, where's the grading app that, I mean, I already can do that through a portal on Blackboard, but then I get to record it, it goes into a grading network.
Yeah.
What happens here? Must I create some whole separate thing to get the grading?
There is an add-on that will allow you to grade.
Okay.
Right. So there's labs in Google, the Google Apps world. There is the core and non-core,
Oh.
and there are third-party applications that will help you do other things. And I had the name before,
Okay.
I forgot, but there is an app that will help you with the grading.
Because in one sense, let me say this, without that, like, what's the benefit there? I mean, to get, to send a online test, okay, they log in, I get that, there's some control there. But then what? I send it back with a grade, but then I have to what, record it on paper or something? That sounds
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah. The integration between Google Apps and Blackboard is was missing there, right?
Okay, okay. Well,
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But
Is that gonna get better?
I'm trying to judge
now
what
that
you're showing me.
now that I'm listening to what you guys are saying, then it seems like it's something we have to look at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there are other things that are the beneficial are the application integration, the fact that the kids are already here,
Okay.
right? So is an option. All right. So that's Google Forms.
Is that the only thing it does?
You do
Google
surveys.
Forms.
The surveys?
You could do surveys.
Surveys, oh, surveys.
You could do, yeah,
You get a
anything
trend
that- yeah.
analysis of
Okay.
how many students did,
That's cool.
did, did
Yeah,
this.
okay,
or
good.
that.
We,
Like a Survey Monkey or no?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's good.
exactly. So this is actually a survey, what I have here, and I'm asking the students, this is a Google form.
Uh-huh.
The terms of service agreement is a Google form. So once you click yes, it goes back into a Google sheet, and then we know that you've signed and you agreed to a terms of service. Yeah, this is the survey. We're asking the students how they use video conferencing, for what purpose. Because we were thinking of using WebEx to provide the faculty another tool so that they could maybe record their classes or host online classes. So it's a survey. And Patrick works with me. He's working with Professor Marcotte to develop an evaluation form in forms to be used in some project that he's working on. All right, so I'm going to show you guys now. Let's talk about transforming the classroom, and this is the bit where I get excited. How do you add value to the things that you do? How is my class any different than anybody else, right? And one of the things that Dr. Bond was talking about was office hours, right? Or in my statistics class, a couple of semesters when I was doing my MBA, a lot of us were having issues with statistics, especially when you haven't been to a classroom in many years. So what he was doing, he was Skyping us. He said, I'm going to be home between 9 and 11, and if you tell me when you're available, I can help you with this. So again, they're using Google Mail, they're using Google Apps, so we can use I'm going to look for Patrick. Are you connected?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Let me do it from my other computer. So I could have a video conference. I could use Google Talk to have a video conference. Mute yourself.
Echo.
So you use Google Chat. Mute yourself. Can you mute it?
I'm sorry. Muted.
So you can have office hours on Google Chat. Or if someone needs, let me close this. You could have office hours in Google Chat. You could do it from home. You could do it if you're not coming into the office that day, or if you're in Lincoln Center at the Forest in Rose Hill. There's something that you could use. Or you could have a class. So I'm going to play a video. This is in a weird language, but the point is, actually no, let's do this. This is an example of an online video meeting, and you can think of this as a class. This is how you talk. Maybe you have a small class of 5 or 6 people, and then you can have something like
We're
this.
going to be talking today about climate change and extreme weather.
Yeah, I had a question. Actually, I just wanted to know, in terms of the predictive models, do the predictive models say my question comes down to the idea that if there are predicted extreme weather conditions, one takes preventative measures.
So one way to think about it is like the tree falling in the woods. And so if the tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? If a tornado happened,
Right, so you can use the technology, it's there. It's part of your Google application and Google Suite to have either office hours or to host a midterm review session before the exams, or if you only teach a class on Saturday mornings once a month and there is extreme weather conditions and folks can come in.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. We had several professors from media services. So we had several professors that couldn't make it to a class, and they would have a Google Hangout. So we would set up the camera in the classroom, and the professor is on the screen, and they're able to still hold the class, and basically it'll be as if she was there. So if you feel like you're not going to make a class or anything like that, this is like a great way to still have some type of telepresence in the classroom, so it doesn't feel like you're missing a day. It's not a lost day.
That's great.
Okay.
Yes.
But all participants in the Hangout have to also download or upload or whatever it is, the Hangout thing on their computer. Is that correct?
Then no. Well, the Google Hangout doesn't have anything local. It's just the browser application.
So what if you have somebody who's from outside of Fordham?
You could come in. They could. You have to invite them, but they'll be allowed
You
to.
invite them, but do they have to do? They don't have to do anything special
No.
on their screen. Or anything?
Nothing. And this is the second example that I have is so the first example is a small class of 5 or 6 people in a video conference, right? And if you were in the corporate world, you will say an online meeting. It doesn't work. Everybody has online meetings. For us, is a class, right? We're teaching is a training session, that kind of stuff. In this example, it's broadcasting. So you're using the technology to, it's the Pope, and he's got thousands of people listening to what he's saying. And I'll just play like a few seconds of it.
Papa Francisco, que ahora va a hablar con chicos de los 5 continentes.
Voy a hacer unas preguntas. No se ponga nervioso.
What we'd really like to know from you is specifically how the Scholars Program will help us bridge gaps between the youths of various countries today.
Estamos convencidos de que la joven.
So you can see that here is you have different groups in different parts of the world. So, and if you had a wider audience, then the broadcaster will not be able to see who's behind you. It's just you broadcasting, and then you could see how many people are connecting to your broadcast. You could see 500 or 600 or 700. There's no limit to that. So, but it was nice to see the Pope. Yes.
So throughout the semesters, you guys have like little sessions. Let's say if I wanted to get deeper into one of these particular applications, where you would like show examples and go through that type of thing, or you do?
We usually have we call it Gaps with Fordham, and we try to have sessions on Gmail and sessions on Google Calendar and how to use that, and we've done that before. So there's an email that goes out from our department announcing when we will have them. We are planning on coming to Lincoln. I don't know if are you in Rose Hill or Lincoln Center?
Here.
We're planning to come to Lincoln Center because we are based. My group works out of Rose Hill. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna leave this here. Anyone wants to leave their email address so I can send this to you guys? High tech. All right. So that's basically it. That's all I had prepared for today. And the way basically is to sum up what we talked about, using Google Apps to communicate and collaborate in a very simple way, in a way that you can do what we're here for, either teach or be administrators of the university. Start the university the best we can and have technology help us do that, instead of being an obstacle on how to use it, where is it, where's my exam, where do I have to post the exam. Just let it be a second nature. It's a tool that to enhance what we're doing. And there's all these other tools that can help us add value to the things that we're doing, right? To make our class different. So, again, our email address for my group is gapsatfordham.edu. and we will be happy to answer any questions that you have. And if you have any questions, yes?
Now, I wanted to ask more about the virtual office hours, because that's something I'm thinking about incorporating.
Sure.
Do most people, when they do it, are they using Google Chat, or are they using Hangouts? How is that?
So it's all in the name. It used to be Google Chat, and then they changed the name to Google Talk, and then they got created and changed the name to Google Hangout. It is the same thing. Right?
Yes, thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So if you go into your Google Chat, and then you find the person that you're going to talk to, they'll either call you or you call them, and then it'll happen. I actually interview when I have to for people to work in my group. The first interview I hold on Google Talk, so that they don't have to go to the Bronx. I don't have to dress up to see them. But always because it is a good way to get in touch with a person for the first time, or have office hours. I think it's great. Why didn't it happen when I was in school? Usually when you find your professor is an office in like the 9th floor with no one around and the door is never opened, right?
The beauty about Google Chat is that you can have collaborative groups. You can invite somebody to groups, and you can just chat amongst yourself in one window, so you can see the interaction between chats. Rather than have multiple chat windows, you'll just have one group chat window.
And I kind of want to plug Google Drive, because for my group, it's everything. They're basically limitless storage, and it'll come in handy whenever we do recording for classes, because we used to in the past like burn DVDs, and that took more time, and we would have it to the professor or whoever needed the recording for the class in like 15 minutes. So it's much quicker, and you wouldn't have to come back to our office to pick anything up. It's an immediate way of receiving your content. And also, if you guys needed to move a lot of files or anything large, it's very useful to upload to Google Drive, and you wouldn't have to worry about storage limitations too much. So
there's no limit in the storage on Google Drive. You could put anything all the time. And then if you're a student, you get to keep it when you leave the university, which is pretty good. So this is a Google document. I'm just going to go in and have Patrick log in and see if you could. Yes?
So my question is, when they go into the calendar, let's say, and make an appointment, do they, because we only saw one side of this, the administrative side, let's say, do they see all of the other appointments that are there? Or
No.
what's available?
No, they see what's available. So let's say you have,
Okay.
let's say you have 2 hours open.
I was just concerned about
Yeah.
privacy.
Yeah, no.
It's good.
It is, so when I was doing this, so this is, let's finish with your question. So, so here's this document that I've created, and it has nothing right now, but only Patrick has access to it. So I can see it, Patrick can see it. Most of the Google stuff is like that. It is easy to give access to everyone, and some people say that's a problem because it's easy, but it's just, you could either restrict access to yourself and 2 other people, or you could give access to the entire world. But the functionality is there. It is pretty secure, right? The same with calendar. My calendar. Let's open this. I could select private. So you could see my time all the time. You can see if I'm busy or if I'm not busy. But if I might mark it private, then you will not be able to see what I'm doing. So if I can't remember anything, and if I have to pay bills or go to the dentist, I put it in my calendar. So I mark this private because I don't like people to know that I'm getting my root canal. You're in?
That test document, you can see the edits and the additions that you're doing on the doc.
So that's I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with this. This is a Google Doc, and Patrick is collaborating in real time on what he's doing. And then if I have a question for him, I could send him a chat and say, hey. And then you could talk. And if I didn't like what he did, I could go back and say, comment this. And then he'll get an email, and then when he replies to this and says that he's fixed it or he's made changes that I'm asking for, I'll get the email back saying that he made a change, And then there's revision history where you could go back and say, hold on, Pat, let me see this. So on the right-hand side, up there, you could see there's revision history, who's made changes and when. And then I could go back and say, I don't like this, so I'm gonna go back to before and restore that version, and then it's empty. And if you have a document that is many, many pages and huge, you could, it's huge. It's great. I like that guy. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for coming.